Welcome back to part 2 of Collector's Diary 2013 edition. We just ended off the month of June and we're moving into the month of July. If you haven't seen part 1 yet, make sure to check that out. And without further ado, let's move into July 2013. And we can see that the first purchase I actually made in July was another big loss. I bought a factory sealed Jackie Chan's Action Kung Fu on NES. Pretty uncommon, obscure game to buy, and I paid $238 for it. And then when I went to the market a few months later, I was able to get $160, which amounts to a loss of $78. Again, that was one of my early mistakes, is I was chasing after these really obscure NES games because there wasn't really this emphasis on buying the really popular games like we see today. There was a way more emphasis on tracking down these rare and obscure NES games. And I thought I was really savvy with it, right? I was ahead of the curve. I was gonna buy Jackie Chan and sell it for $500, and yeah, no. Right here, I bought a Final Fantasy XII, the collector's edition, already graded in 85 plus. And it cost me $100. Just good value, right? It's always nice to get the 85 plus already graded. And right underneath it, you can see that I got a stellar deal on a complete in box stack up where I was actually able to buy it for $283 and sell it for $565. And it looks like what I was able to do was upgrade the one that I already owned. So I would have sold off the one that I was already in possession of. And you can see that even back in 2013, complete in box stack ups were very expensive, especially relative to how much everything else costs. Like, this is pretty extreme. Here's an example of me buying a game raw, grading it, and barely making any money. So I bought a Gauntlet 2 on the NES, and I graded it, which probably cost me $40, because I always send stuff on economy, right? 66 plus about $40 to grade, and I sold it for $110, which is basically a break even and a loss of a lot of time. So that's always fun. Down here are two examples of me buying raw games and turning them into VGA 90s. So Metroid Zero Mission Game Boy Advance, I paid $42.50, and I was able to turn it into a VGA 90. And Dragon Ball GT Transformations, I actually paid $56 for, which is more than the Zero Mission, and it also turned into a VGA 90. This right here is for a Zelda Twilight Princess on GameCube. It was already graded VGA 90, and I'm pretty sure this was me winning an open auction again. The complete in box price for this game was already climbing up to like $60, $70, $80, so when I saw a factory sealed one for only $240, it just seemed like it was good relative value, and that's because you're already paying for the grading to be done, and it's in mint condition. Right here, you can see Super Dragon Ball Z for PlayStation 2. This is when I was beginning my factory sealed Dragon Ball Z collection, so you're gonna see a lot of them where I was purchasing up factory sealed Dragon Ball Z games. And here's one that kind of hurts to see, actually. I bought some VGA graded games, and you can see in here that there is a factory sealed God of War 85 plus. I don't know if this is a version with UPC strip or not. I can't remember. But you can also see there was Ico, Kingdom Hearts 2, Disgaea, Metal Gear Solid 3, Wheel of Katamari, 13, and Beautiful Joe. Now, out of those, what I actually kept was Ico and Kingdom Hearts 2. Because if you were collecting back then, Ico was actually one of the really sought after PlayStation 2 games. Now, it obviously fell off a cliff in demand as time passed, but back in 2013, that was a premium title. So that would explain why I was willing to keep Ico versus keeping the God of War VGA 85 plus, which was probably dime a dozen. It was probably seen as quite common at the time. I hope that that was one of the second print versions, but I honestly don't know. Regardless, it's interesting that I was able to get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 factory sealed graded games for $400. Another Dragon Ball Z game here, Ultimate Battle 22, which I paid $11 for a factory fresh one, which these are still available factory fresh. This is the most common Dragon Ball Z game, don't overpay for it. And that ends off July, where actually this is one of the bigger spending months for me, where I spent $2,800, only recouped 23 of it, and overall spent $500 on my collection. 2,800 is a lot for me for that time. You can see back in June. Oh, damn, June we spent 2,300 too. Okay, in May we had nothing. Oh, June and July we started. I'm working my summer job right now. That's why. Here we have Ninja 5-0 for Game Boy Advance complete in box. And this at the time was the rarest Game Boy Advance game. So I wanted to make sure I tracked one down. And you can see it cost me $164 at the time to get a copy of it. And here again, we can actually see another big mistake I made, which it's funny to think of this as a mistake, but so I bought a Secret of Evermore factory sealed for Super Nintendo. And you can see I paid $188, and then I paid to have it graded, and it only graded VGA 80 plus. And then I went to go and sell it, and I could only get $150 for it. You can see I wrote down a loss of $38, but if you also add on the 40-ish, 50-ish to grade it, it's actually more of a loss of almost $100. It's one of those things where, had I just held on to it a little bit longer, I would have made great profit. Secret of Evermore is very expensive now. But when you always have that quick flip, when you're going for those quick flips, you are subject to way more volatility, and you might just make a mistake of selling way too early. Which is all just part of it. People say, how do I start? What do I get into? I'm afraid of overpaying. Don't ever be afraid of those things. Just, you have to expose yourself to the market and get this experience for yourself. You learn so much doing stuff like this. And in August, you can see I spent $2,000 in both months prior to this. So in August, it makes sense my spending is going down. I'm simply running out of money. Moving into September, we can see this was a really quiet month. We only have a few purchases here, but some of them are some serious bangers, starting with this first one, which is Spider-Man Web of Fire Complete in Box on 32X. If you don't know the Sega 32X console, Web of Fire is the premier game on the console. Again, right, I was chasing after those obscure, really hard to find, the really rare games on the consoles, and I finally found Web of Fire at a decent price. And I held on to this one for a lot of years until I eventually sold it in 2017, 2018, I think, and it barely had gone up in price at that point. And then in the following 2 or 3 years, it went up about 5 times in price. Just kind of how it goes. Gitaru Man was one of the rarest, most sought after PlayStation 2 games. This is a one that also does have the UPC strip at the top, as it did receive a late reprint. I was super happy to get one, right? Good price, and it came back at VGA 85, and now 8 years later, no one really cares. This is one of those things where if you buy the games that are currently rare right now, like on PS4, maybe the Godzilla game, or if you bought Rory's Golf, or even Madden, or NCAA 14, these games that are rare right now probably won't be what's rare in 5 to 10 years, or what's expensive in 5 to 10 years. So you really have to watch how much of a premium you're paying right now. Time is your friend in most instances, but in a lot of cases, it's going to be that people are buying the wrong things. Just something to think about. Here we see this Jurassic Park 3 Park Builder again. I had bought a complete in box one just a few months earlier, and then I bought the factory sealed one, and it graded into a VGA 95. I was very bullish on this game to be a rare Game Boy Advance game. I don't think anyone cares about it. I think I kind of missed the mark on this one. And ending off September, we have a massive purchase here with Ogre Battle 64 VGA 85+, and Mega Man 64 VGA 95. I'm pretty sure I held on to these for a few months before I finally sold the Ogre Battle only and kept the Mega Man 64 VGA 95. And I still own that one to today. And you can see in September here, I actually did spend quite a bit of money, or I lost quite a bit of money, as most of the stuff I ended up keeping. So here we go, moving into October 2013. It looks like I was doing a little bit of reselling on modern games. So I bought 2 of the Wind Waker HD limited editions, and I made $37 profit on them. Yay, go Greg. What a waste of time, hey? And right here again is another big mistake I made. I bought a Diablo 2 Collector's Edition, factory sealed. Again, right? Had I just held on to it, not a mistake. Fantastic purchase. But I didn't hold on to it. It was in slightly worse condition than I was hoping, and so I just wanted to get my money back. So I put it back up on the market a couple of months later, and there are a couple of issues with the Diablo 2 Collector's Edition, one of which is its immense size, so it's very expensive to ship it. I ended up with $374, which actually might be a sale price of $455, but then I have to pay like $30 or $40 to ship this thing. You pay the eBay fees, and all of a sudden, I take a loss of almost $100. So you can see that for every really good win I have at the time, I also do take quite a few losses here. I think what I'm learning is that I wasn't nearly as good at this as I thought I was. But hey, here's another win to end off the month, hey? I bought a factory sealed Super Mario Sunshine for $145, and it graded into a VGA 85+. So there you go, right? You make a big screw up here with the Diablo 2, but then you have a huge win with the Mario Sunshine. So you can see that since I took a big loss in September, I was not able to take a big loss in October. I had to tighten up the finances a bit. November looks like it was a big month though, so let's see what we're doing in here. Starting off with some graded game purchases again here. It looks like I bought Xenosaga 1 and 2 in VGA 85+ and 90 for $110 total. So that's awesome, right? Get Xenosaga 1 and 2 already graded for $100? Ridiculous. I held on to these for a lot of years, actually. I sold off these games in 2020. And the price of Xenosaga 1 and 2 actually didn't move much until the Corona wave hit, at which point they went up. Unfortunately, I sold them right before Corona hit, so that kind of sucked. Here is another huge Game Boy Advance purchase. So I don't want to name off every game that was in here. You can read the full list if you want to, but everything in here is factory sealed. So some of the big hitters in here include the Castlevania games, all of them, Aria, Circle of the Moon, and the Double Pack, both of the Metroid games, 2 Zelda games, both Shining Soul games, both of the Harvest Moon games. It was just an insane lot of factory sealed Game Boy Advance, and they were all in fantastic condition too. And you can see that it wasn't cheap, right? It wasn't super expensive, but this is all relative. It wasn't cheap. I did pay $949 for this bundle of games. And out of them, I wish I was able to have kept all of them, but I actually did sell off some of the premier titles, such as Aria of Sorrow and Circle of the Moon. You can see that I did make sure to keep the Double Pack. I did keep the Shining Force, the Shining Soul games, both of the Harvest Moons, Tactics Ogre, and all of the Super Mario Advance games. It was really a tough decision of deciding how much money do I need to get back out of this? How much can I realistically afford to keep? It was a tightrope I had to walk there, but I think in the end, I'm really happy about what I did end up keeping. Obviously, I wish I would have kept all of it, but that's how it goes. So this next purchase here actually includes what you guys always see behind me, which is the Mario RPG vinyl banner. With it came a whole bunch of Super Nintendo boxes, and I got it for what I thought at the time was an absolute stellar deal of $250, because getting those actual retail display banners is extremely difficult and they will always be sought after items. Display pieces like that are always awesome to purchase when you have the opportunity to. Right here you can see I bought a factory sealed Digimon World VGA 85 Plus Black Label, and I must not have filled in these 2 spots here because I was never sure if I was actually going to keep it. Now I still own this game 8 years later, so I think it's pretty safe to fill these in with I did not sell it and I ended up keeping it. And here to end off November you can see that I bought 2 factory sealed Dragon Ball Z games on PlayStation 1, and these are both of the Dragon Ball GT Final Bout, both the Bandai and the Atari release. And I was so excited to finally get Final Bout, the Bandai release, for an insane price at the time. This was a newly listed buy it now where I just sniped it on eBay, right? And I had started my collection of Dragon Ball Z games, and this one was easily the rarest one that there was at the time. If you guys don't know, Dragon Ball Final Bout has both the original Bandai release and then later got the Atari release. And the Bandai release was this extremely limited release. We finally got the translated version overseas, but it didn't sell much, and then it became this collector's item almost immediately. When I finally got a factory sealed one, this was a huge win. In 2021, it does not resonate nearly as much as it did in 2013, but the game is still rare today. It's not easy to find this game factory sealed at all. But it didn't rise through the ranks to become one of the PlayStation 1 grails. But personally, it is absolutely still a grail type item, and I still own it to this day. You can see to end off November here, this was a month of big spending. Cost $680, but we kept a lot of stuff for the collection. And this brings us to the last month of 2013. Let's see what I was doing in December. Here's another example of how the games that are rare back then might not be the games that are rare 10 years from now. My Horse and Me Riding for Gold on Nintendo Wii, factory sealed, I paid $65. This was one of the grails of Nintendo Wii collecting. If you weren't around back then, or if you've only been collecting since maybe 2018, this game probably doesn't resonate with you. But before all of these random chess games or Mensa Academies or that weird Mexico singing game, before all those existed, everyone was chasing after My Horse and Me Riding for Gold. I was chasing after it as well. And you can see that I bought a factory sealed one and sold it soon thereafter and netted myself $17. But it's just another showing that just because something is rare right now and sought after right now does not mean that in 5 years from now that's going to be the holy grail type of game. It's possible for the supply on these games to change as they are modern, and the demand for these games also changes over time as it falls out of flavor or ends up not being as rare as people initially thought, or as more popular games simply become more popular. And very fittingly, December ends off with 2 more factory sealed Dragon Ball Z games. We have Tenkaichi Tag Team on the PlayStation Portable and Tenkaichi 1 on the PlayStation 2. And this brings us to our grand totals of 2013. So you can see that in 2013, I spent almost $17,000. I brought back $12,000. And for my personal collection, I spent $4,600. And this is very common for me at the time. I was usually spending somewhere around $2,000 to $5,000 on the personal collection every year. This is the power of buying and selling as much as I did, because you can see that I'm rolling over $16,000, right? So sure, I only spent $4,600, but this $4,600 is going to net me maybe $10,000 of items. You not only double your money initially that year, but you also then have a bunch of items that you can hold for the long term. And through continually doing this buying and selling and market engagement, you build up your collection far faster than you could if you were only relying on the money that you can spend. Like I said, right, I'm only making about $17 an hour right now, and I'm paying for full-time schooling. Anyways, that does it for 2013 edition. If you want to just scroll through and pause at any point on the screen, you can see all the other deals that I didn't talk about because there are a lot of them. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and I promise there will not be a 2-month wait before we get the 2014 edition. I'll see you guys next time.